to date. Well, let's go back to that conversation that we were having on the fact that COVID-19 regulations were eased, and I understand Professor Thumbi Mwangi is now back with us. As I was mentioning, Professor, inoculation rates are still low. What is the next step when it comes to the fight against COVID-19, especially since we have been seeing cases resurging and different variants coming up?
I think there are two main things to look out for. So the first one is to keep a very good surveillance that looks for when cases begin to rise up, because it's not unlikely that in the future that would happen. So if there was a new variant coming in or we lost our immunity as a population, we'd expect to see a new wave. The second really important thing is the weapon we have against COVID-19 or the infection is really vaccination. So we haven't done great because we're only at about 30% of the population vaccinated. But if you're able to keep pushing that higher and higher, then the likelihood of seeing a new wave is going to be really diminished.
All right. 2 years down the line since our first case was recorded, what lessons can the nation learn from this period that we have experienced so many challenges?
I mean, I think one of the really key lessons that we can get out of this is that when as a nation we make investments in, say, health systems, those are possibly going to be our best bet of protecting us against such a health emergency as has been caused by COVID-19. As you know, the contact tracing, the dealing with cases in health facilities, in hospitals, used our doctors, they used the surveillance officers that already the Ministry of Health had been training and working with, and those were the ones that came to our aid when we needed help with this public health emergency. So my view is that one of the biggest lessons is that as a nation we must really invest in strengthening our health system. The second big thing that I think I have learned, and I'm sure many others have within this pandemic, is that when we have got something so new and you don't have a lot of information, you have to learn first, and importantly, to stick with science, because as you can see today, they have lifted up some of the restrictions that were put in, and during the whole pandemic, at least, we have had the reasons why we are putting in restrictions, the reason why you're lifting them, and I think sticking with science is really important, because then we are able not just to respond out of emotions, we are really responding out of what data is telling us. And I think that's really quite critical for us.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Thumbi Mwangi, for your time. Of course, he is the co-director, University of Nairobi Center for Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis. He is equally an associate professor, Washington State University. Of course, Kenyans continue reacting on this move by the government to relax COVID containment measures. Some are praising it, some are raising concerns, and we'll continue having this conversation as we go on and as days go by. Well, you're watching Weekend Prime. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more stories.